things are starting to get a little bit more interesting for Manchester United ahead of the summer transfer window. New names, new targets are being linked. It's felt like, we've been linked to Baleva, Anderson, Wharton pretty much every day, and then you get the odd link here and there, so like a Yandy, a Monday, or a Gordon. But there's fresh names, fresh faces appearing as Manchester United are changing up their targets. Now, of course, who Manchester United go and sign in the summer is going to depend on two things, really: who the next manager is and UCL football. That can really determine who we may sign. So in today's video, I'm going to break down why UCL football is crucial. We've got information from Mark Ogden on the financial side of things. The Tonali news, I think that's the particularly interesting news story coming today. More on Tonali, his price tag. Italian clubs priced out of a move. Could he go to Man United as he's priced out of a move to Italy? I think with Champions League football, maybe. We've been linked to Barcola today, which is a fresh link. More links to Morgan Gibbs White. We'll talk about why I think things are getting a bit more interesting. Obviously, more updates on Sancho's exit. I mean, he's set to go. It would be crazy for us to extend his deal. He's not even been particularly impressive at Villa. And then updates on Michael Carrick, his future, and maybe the manager decision and more. So, hello, and welcome back to Alice Talks Football, and welcome back to your 10-minute Manchester United news roundup video. Every single day on the channel, I do a 10-minute video rounding up all the latest Manchester United news, then letting you know if I think the source is credible or not, and more. If you do enjoy today's 10-minute roundup, feel free to hit the like button. If you're new and want more 10-minute roundups, you're welcome to subscribe. So Mark Ogden spoke about the impact of missing out on UCL, as you can see on the screen. This is a few of the things that he mentioned. Obviously, we lose about 5 million matchday revenue per game, says Mark Ogden. He spoke about potentially, if you reach the UCL quarterfinals, you almost get 30 million extra from just from the 6 home games in itself. Which is pretty mad when you think about it. If you also look at the fact that we lose 10 million through Adidas as well, with the penalty being triggered. So it's like if we made a UCL quarterfinal, we get 30 million more plus 10 million more from Adidas, which is instantly 40 million more. Plus the fact that you pretty much get 100 million for being in the group stage in itself. We're looking at over 100 million more potentially if we have UCL football. And one interesting thing that Mark Ogden did figure out is that player plus staff wages dropped 25% without UCL. So we are saving 78 million. So even though we probably go up around 130, 140 million with UCL football because of wages, we probably make about 70, 60, 50 million max off that, which is still a decent amount of money and gives us a bit more flexibility. He did mention that losses right now are quite big at United, with 313 million wage bill, 422 million transfer debts. UCL returns seen as vital for financial stability, and I agree. But not only is it for financial stability you need UCL, but I think our chances of getting someone like Sandro Tonali almost double with UCL football. Stephen Railston and many sources have said that Manchester United admire Sandro Tonali and Bruno Guimaraes and would consider a move for either if they become available. I've said many times, I know there's a rumour of Bruno Guimaraes having a release clause, but if he leaves Newcastle, he will go abroad. I think he's very loyal to Newcastle in that sense. I think he really loves Newcastle. And I think Newcastle will do everything they can to keep onto him. I think Newcastle, for the right price, would sell Tonali. For the right price, would sell Gordon. But I don't think Newcastle would even entertain selling the likes of Lewis Hall or Bruno Guimaraes. I think they're two players that I see as near impossible. I think unless Bruno Guimaraes surprisingly pushed for a move, which I just cannot see happening, he seems to kind of really like Newcastle. I can't see Bruno Guimaraes going anywhere this summer. I think that would be difficult. Tonali, I can see going somewhere this summer. His agent's already playing around. We do know he wants to go back to Italy. We do know Arsenal are looking at him. And that could be one to watch, because if we watched Man United versus Newcastle, who was the best player? Tonali and Joelinton. Who dominated the midfield? Tonali. The fact that he, can play the ball forward, the fact that he's so athletic, he's exactly what Man United need in midfield. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. Tonali, Mateus Fernandes, and João Gomes. They're the 3 midfielders to me. Now, there's been quite a few stories on Tonali today, which I want to get into and put up on the screen. First, with a report coming out from Italy, the Newcastle reportedly demanding 100 million euros for Sandro Tonali this summer. Man United see him as a possible successor to Casemiro. I mean, he's just amazing, Tonali. I know he hasn't even had his best season, but I just think he's mint. We're looking at around 80 to 85 million for Tonali. Considering we spent 75 million on Sancho, considering we spent 85 million on Anthony, I have no issue with Manchester United dropping 85 million on Sandro Tonali. You look at the midfield market right now, 85 million on Tonali, I think is a very fair price. Matteo Moretti says that Newcastle actually ran at 95 million euros, which would rule out interest from Juventus or any other Italian side. The feeling is he would love to go back to Italy. That is his preference, but the fee is just too big for Italian clubs, which give United an advantage. The problem is Mr. Squad depth, greedy, defensive midfielder, defensive-minded, work rate running player, Arteta is greedy for players like Tonali, players that can run, players that are defensive-minded. Arsenal need a left winger. Arsenal got someone and they've got Rice. Yes, they need another midfielder for depth. But why don't you look at a 40 million midfielder for depth? No, Arsenal want a big midfielder for depth in Sandro Tonali. And there's a feeling if he goes to another Premier League club, it will be Arsenal. And that is what worries me. Demartio says Arsenal is the most likely destination for Tonali in the Premier League, but they are really interested in him. I'm not sure if he wants to stay in the Premier League because he might want to go back to Italy. I think he still misses Italy, but the Premier League is top. He still has to decide what he wants to do. I think if he can't get a move to Italy, I think he could go to Arsenal, and that's what worries me. The one thing I will say is if we're Man United, first of all, Arsenal need a left winger more than anything, and that's where their 85 million needs to go, but then we also need a left winger. But second of all, Tonali likes being the main man. Tonali's best performances for Newcastle have come when he's almost been the main man at the time. He won't be at Arsenal. There's Declan Rice, and I don't think Tonali works with Declan Rice. If I'm going to be completely honest, I think he works better with Subamende. There's Declan Rice and Subamende that he has to compete for minutes with. I think personally, do you want to be an Eze? Do you want to be an Eze competing with Odegaard for minutes, competing with Subamende and Rice for minutes, or do you want to be the main man at United? That's what I'd say to Tonali. If we get Champions League football, we can offer him a big wage and say, do you want to be the main man at Man United? Do you want to be the main man? Because at Arsenal, you're going to have to compete with Subamende and Rice. Arteta barely gives Norgard a sniff. You're not guaranteed minutes at Arsenal. At Man United, you're the main guy. Obviously, he's better than Norgard, so he would get more minutes than Norgard. Continuing on. Bradley Barcola has emerged as a standout option for Man United. He's reportedly been added to the shortlist as Rashford nears a permanent move to Barcelona. We've been linked to Njai, Yan Diamonde, Anthony Gordon, Barcola, Kvaratskhelia lately. Manchester United are looking at a left winger. I think it all depends on price, who's available, who's willing to come. There's a real lack of left wingers in the market right now, or at least left wingers that we think are the standard. That's why I think everyone is looking at Yan Diamonde, because he might be the next big thing, but even him being from the Bundesliga, it's such a huge risk. Barcola I like, but I think he's overrated. I prefer Kvaratskhelia. I prefer Desiree Doué if I was going to pick wingers from PSG. I prefer Dembele. Like Barcola, I think he could be a really good left wing option for Manchester United. But I'm not gonna lie, I've always just felt he's a little bit overrated. Like, he's better than Garnacho, but I think he can be inconsistent, and that element of his game reminds me of Garnacho. But he has got 10 goals this season. Last season he got 14 goals and 10 assists. He has decent numbers. I like Barcola. I wouldn't say no. I wouldn't spend 100 million or anything crazy on him. But if you could get Barcola for 50, 60 million, then 100% I'm going for it. I think he's a good player. I just don't think he's like an elite player, if that's the words. Maybe that's just me. More reports coming out that United have added Morgan Gibbs-White at Forest to their summer transfer targets. I like Gibbs-White. Again, my midfield priorities would be one of Anderson and Tonali, Mateus Fernandes for the 8, Joel Gomez for depth. But I think if someone like Bruno goes, you have to look at Morgan Gibbs-White. If Bruno Fernandes goes, a lot of people talk about Cole Palmer and Morgan Rogers because they're number 10s. They're more like-for-like replacements. Whereas someone like a Morgan Gibbs-White is more of an 8/10, a Bruno Guimaraes is more of an 8. But I think when I look at mentality, captaincy, leadership, I do look at Morgan Gibbs-White and Bruno Guimaraes more as Bruno Fernandes replacements than an actual creative 10, which might sound pretty mad to say because obviously the amount of chances Bruno creates. But I do think if we just got two really good creative 8s and had a good number 6, that's probably the best way to replace Bruno. And look, Morgan Gibbs-White is an option, but look, hopefully Bruno doesn't go anywhere for at least another year. So where's it getting interesting? Well, new links are emerging. Morgan Gibbs-White, Tonali, Barcola, Agome. I did a whole video on Agome yesterday. Bruno Guimaraes, Santos and Njai, all really good players, all players I'd happily have at Man United that weren't linked to us at all 2 months ago, that have been linked to us recently. And that says to me that these are genuine players that Manchester United are looking at ahead of the summer and genuine players we can make a move for, which I think is particularly interesting. In terms of other news, Alex Crook said that United are prepared to let Jadon Sancho leave as a free agent rather than risk paying another year of giving him around 200 grand a week. It's very obvious that Jadon Sancho is going to go on 3. And The Athletic said that main decision makers are satisfied with Michael Carrick's work, but the club insists that it will not rush to appoint a permanent successor. A decision should not be made before the end of the season. So again, the Athletic are coming out and saying that the people at Man United are happy with Michael Carrick, but we're not going to make him permanent anytime soon. We'll make a decision near the end of the season. We're not rushing anything on that. That is your 10-minute roundup. Thank you for watching. Bye.